I know Navajo too. I'm gonna be doing my master's at USP starting this semester, so um, maybe you'll see me in your class a little bit. We'll meet each other at Tupi too. I'll come in. I'll come sometimes. I'll say that. I don't know if I can come every time. I don't know. Do you know what time it's gonna be, or what day it's gonna be? Tupi two.
Yes, I know, but I don't remember now. If I look at my schedule in college, I can tell to you.
All right, yeah. Let me know later. You can tell us in the group so we can all
Okay,
we everyone in the
I will
whole
check
group
here.
can come crash the class. All right, sweet. Yeah, usually I wait until about 10 minutes after to start. We just small talk and stuff here because it takes some time for some people to come. But it'll probably be just the three of us unless someone else comes in the next couple minutes. So we can do a class tailored into what you guys already know. So, I mean, if you're going into Tupi 2, then you must or have already taken Tupi 1, right? But did you go to every class and did you feel like you learned something or do you feel like it was too confusing?
Sorry, I can't listen you well. I
Oh,
am in
okay.
bus now.
All right, let me speak a little bit louder. Um, in Tupi one, do you feel like you got a good basis for the language? Like, do you know what it means? Ishe.
Yes, I did took the one, but I don't think that I take the basic or
Uh,
the subject. I pass with a five. So,
oh yeah,
like, really so to me.
but you got a five, right? Isn't that good?
Yes. And my class will be every Thursday at 7:30 p.m.
I see. So every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Yeah, maybe sometimes I'll come see you in that class. Let me see. I'm gonna close this window. Let me share my screen. Let's get this. Let's get it started. So, welcome, Ariel.
Thank you, man.
You're here. Wonderful. We got three people in the class now. So we'll do. Let me share my screen.
How can I say boa tarde in Tupi? In
It's
Tupinambá?
Tiape Karuka.
Yampé Karuka.
Yeah, Tiape Karuka. I wrote it in the chat. Can you still see the chat, even though you
Yep.
came late?
Chat here.
There we go.
If you want to make a review, that would be great for me. Really.
Yeah, I mean, let's do a little bit of a review. So, I mean, the first thing when you're learning to be with I was gonna say Anchieta, but his name is Navajo. He's not that old. Um, when you're learning Tupi with Navajo, he really likes to teach you guys. Let me pin my face here.
Sorry, can you type again the way that you speak? Good afternoon,
Yeah, I can.
please. It didn't show for me.
Tiape Karuka, like that. And so here I'll show you. I'll show it to you here in the dictionary. So if you go in the
Yampé
dictionary,
Karuka, guys.
you look for Karuka. Then you see Boa Tarde is right here. This is Tiande Karuka. This is for one person, right? So ne means you, singular. Thou in English, tu in Portuguese, right? Você.
Okay.
But pe means plural, so that would be y'all, yous, vocês, vós, all of that. So that's the
Yampé
difference.
Karuka. Hush.
Yeah, tiape karuka would be to everyone. Tiande karuka would be to one person. That's all. And so that would be how we say that. This tia is a particle. It doesn't really have a translation. It's just a word. that is a part of this structure, and then karuka means tarji, right? Or entardecer could be a verb too. So tiande karuka. If you want to say good morning, we say koema, koema, not koema, koema. You have to have a occlusão glutal, a glottal stop. Koema. That means morning. So say tiande koema, de koema, right? Then the other one, the last one is putuna. Putuna. Tiande putuna, which is nighttime. That's all. So that's how you say good evening, good morning, and good night. Putuna karuka. And you can search all of these things. Like if I type in manya, then it'll say, okay, there's koema. If I type in tarji, we get karuka. If I type in noichi, then we get putuna, right? So this dictionary is your best friend. You go between.
Petuna is literally black being.
What do you mean?
Petuna, if it is from the verb peta and the adjective una.
Maybe. Yeah, I've never thought about that too much. Did you see that somewhere in the dictionary?
Dark state. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be putuna, putuna, putuna. Yeah, it could be something like that. If we take away the una, let's see if we find something. Put, pu, pu is barulho, so dark noise, darkness and noise. That sounds like the nighttime, right?
Puta, puta.
Puta, puta. Oh yeah, stay in darkness. That could be it. Puta.
Exist.
Yeah, to permanecer in darkness. That's not. Yeah, good thought. You're already thinking in tupi. That's great.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
And this word is the same meaning as the good evening
No, so this word
or arriving and the good night?
He's creating some interesting theories right now. So let's go ahead and delete this stuff. So we say tian de something. This means good, and then in here we're gonna have time of day, right? And so this is nde or pe. So this is what we're saying is this is a formula for greeting somebody based on the day. So we have koema, that's the morning, right? Mnyaha, manya. And then we have karuka, not haruka. This thing really loves to correct the tupi. That is afternoon, right? And then we have putuna, which is petunia in English, I guess. Putuna, type of flower, which is nighttime, right? Noichi. Okay, so when we put that together, that's how we greet people, right? So we can say tiande ko emma, tiape ko emma, tiande karuka, tiape karuka, tiande putuna, tiape putuna. So you can say it like that. What Ariel was saying is that it looks like, right, the putuna is a verb that is combined between puta, like this. This means ficar, right? To stay in tupi. And there's another verb which is una, un or una. Un means like just to be black, right? Or dark. So he was thinking, oh, it looks like maybe you put together puta plus una, and that means to stay dark, right? Or to stay in darkness. And I don't know if this is, valid, but it's interesting to think that way, to make those connections and to think like, oh, how are words in Tupi put together? Because a lot of words are made up of smaller words in Tupi. Not just Tupi, but any language, really. Does that make sense? We strayed off a little bit. Although I will say this, when you have a root like this, puta, which is tonic, it ends with an A like this. That's tonic at the end. When you compose it doesn't normally lose this A. So it would sound more like putauna. So it's more likely that there's some sort of putu means, there we go. This looks more reasonable. Putu means descansar, descanso. So I think that maybe it has more to do with that. Putuna. So maybe darkness, resting, something like that. Does that make sense, Audio?
Yep, it does. It does. Ayuebete.
Ayevete. Yeah, putu, putu u, and then there's also, it says that there's also putu, which is we see the same thing happen. You have putu, putu, or putuba. Hálito, bafo, sopro, expiração. Interesting. So it's like your breath as well. Putu, putu. Tupi is cool like that. There's so many words that mean a lot of different things, but it's all put together. So, how do we get on this? Oh yeah, you were asking about that. I was gonna show you something in the grammar before. So when you study with Navajo, basically, he likes to start out with verbs, I believe, and he likes to start out by teaching people first-class verbs first. So in my grammar, you can find out here verbs, indicative mood, first-class verbs, right there. This grammar should be very helpful for people. It's in English. I'm going to translate it to Portuguese over the course of the next 2 years, and I'm going to make it bigger and very expansive. But for now, it's fairly basic. These are the basics. So this table should be very helpful and hopefully familiar to you, Marina. Do you recognize this at all?
Yes, I remember.
Good, good. All right, so let's go through and then let's remember all of these different ones. So when it comes to first-class verbs, all the verbs are going to have an optional subject pronoun, optional, right? And a required, obligatorio subject prefix that goes onto the verb stem itself. So the subject pronoun is a separate word. The subject prefix goes onto the verb that you're conjugating. Okay, it's pretty basic. It's pretty easy. Conjugation in Tupi is pretty straightforward. There's no crazy, endings. You just add a personal prefix and that's it. So we have ishe, and that goes with a. Ende, ere. Ore, oro. Yande, ya. Pe, pe. A, e, o. And so that's how that goes. So if you have a verb that is intransitive, like nyeing, nyeing. What does that mean, nyeing? Does anybody know?
I don't remember how to conjugate the verbs. For example, when I want to say about she,
She.
I use them.
Yeah, so when you want to say about she in Tupi, we're going to use the third person. So something I want you to note about all the different people. I'll tell you in English, in linguistic terms, what all the different possible people that we have. And when we say person in linguistic terms, that means the perspective of it. Is it plural? Is it him? Third? So we have first person singular, right here, 1 PS. First person singular, that's me. Second person singular, tu, right? And then we have first person plural exclusive, right? You remember this part? This is important for Tupi. The exclusive we means that if I'm talking to you and I say ore, I'm talking about a group of people, including myself, but you're not included in the group, okay? Whereas if I use yande, that's the first person plural inclusive. So that means that if I say yande while I'm talking to you, I'm talking about you and me and maybe other people, but at least you and me, right? The focus is on us. Whereas when I say ore, the focus is on me and other people. Okay? That's the big difference in Tupi. Whereas in English and Portuguese, we don't have this distinction. If if we leave a bar, right? If I met you at a bar and I say, "Oh, me and some other people are going to go to an after party later." We are going to go to an after party later. If I just say that, we are going to go to an after party, you don't know if you're invited. You might be invited, you might not be. If we say it in Tupi, it's obvious. Ore or yende. You're either in it or you're out. Very binary. Okay. Then we have y'all, the second person plural. That's what I have in English. That's pe, you. And then the third person, you notice that in my grammar, I don't give it any number. It's just third person, okay? Because there's only a third person in Tupi. It's not gendered. There is no he. There's no she. There's no they. There's no it. Okay? It's all just a e. So I want to say she said something, a e onye eng. If I want to say he said something, a e onye eng. If I want to say they said something, a e onye eng. When something is in the third person, for whatever reason in Tupi, there is no number, there is no gender. Okay? So if you want to say she, they, it, he, it's all third person in Tupi.
I don't believe there is even an ae. I think ae is not a personal pronoun, it's a demonstrative.
It can be both. It can be both, yeah. Ae is what gets used as a placeholder, but it is demonstrative. You're right. Exactly. So it's like that. You can use ae for like that thing over there. Ae ava, that guy. Ae ava on your eng. That guy said something. Right. Very very good observation there. So that's it. That's how you say she. So you have a verb like nyeing, right? Falar. To somebody. This is a transitive verb, so it's like I'm speaking. Just out to the world. I'm speaking. Anyeing, ishe anyeing. I speak. Let's go ahead and conjugate each and every one of these with nyeing real quick. So who wants to do this one? Let's do the second person singular. We'll go down the line. Let's see.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. You do the first one, Ariel.
You want me to repeat? And then?
Yeah, I want you to conjugate this verb right here, nyeing, for ende.
Ende, ere, nyeing.
Perfect.
Nyeing.
Ende, ere, nyeing. Perfect.
Ende, ere, nyeing.
Yeah. All right, Gustavo, you want to do the next one?
Ore oro nyeing. Nyeing. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was eating.
Ore, oro, nyeing. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Ende, ere, karu. You are eating. All right. Marina, let's do the next one.
So will be yende, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And let's conjugate this verb right here, nyeing. So what does it sound like altogether?
Okay, I think that I got it. No,
You got
I'm
it.
not sure.
Go for it.
Nyenge.
So we have ishe anyeing, ende ere nyeing, ore oro nyeing. And now this one will follow the same pattern.
She, anye, yende, yeah.
Yeah, yande yanyeing. Good. Very good. All right.
Can I help? Here. Can I help her?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. We're gonna get the Mari. We're gonna get the pronoun yande, and then the subject prefix needs to be glued to the verb. So it's gonna be yande, ya, ye, ein. You got it, Ma? because the ia is the prefix for we inclusive in the verb. So we're going to connect ia to yen.
Okay, so the verb is añen.
It's
Is
yen.
yen.
Right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now you, like in the classes. I, yande, we, yande, and then we speak. Ya, yen. Go, now you. Yande,
Yande, añe, ya.
ya, yen.
Yande,
Yande.
yanyeeng. Yanyeeng. Just like that. Let's try the next one. Sash, do you want to try this one?
Penyeeng. Penyeeng.
Yeah, penyeeng. Penyeeng. This one's a little tricky because it makes you want to do the occlusion glottal like pe, but it's not pe, it's just pe. Kind of hard.
In my método moderno de Tupi antigo, there is a glottal occlusion mark.
Really?
In the yeah. I don't know. Maybe it has changed because they don't use to write it down. So I believe sometimes you don't know if it's there or not.
Yeah, that's a
But
good question.
this is the second edition, Método Moderno de Tupi Antigo.
I wonder if he writes it in there.
Vozes Editora.
Well, okay, there's no... I'll tell you now, I'm not sure about that one. You can send a picture in the chat. I'm curious about that. But at least in the dictionary, there's no occlusion glottal. It's just pe, just like that. Pe is a word, but it doesn't have a nasal on it. It means aquecer, aquintar, esquintar. Pe, pe. Yeah, it's pe, just like that. All right, penyeeng, you speak. And then the last one is ae onyeeng, which we already saw that. So, let's see. Let's take a look at that. Ae, where's the pe? Pe. Interesting. Pe. Wonder about mine. Where's my... Here it is. What page is that? Do you know what page that is?
3.
3? That's it? Interesting. Penyeeng. Yeah, mine doesn't have that. Mine's just a pe. Interesting. I can't really show you on this camera, but yeah, there is not an occlusion glottal. It's interesting that that's in there. But yeah, there isn't one. He must have updated it or something. All right, and let's move on then. So, if we have the verb like this, quer, then we can just go down and do the same thing that we just did. It's the same thing that we just did with nyeeng. Ishe aker, I sleep. Ende ereker, you sleep. Ore oroker, we, not you, sleep. Yande yaker, we, including you, sleep. Be peker, y'all sleep. Ae oker, he, she, it, they sleep. Just like that. So pretty easy. That's what Navajo goes over. Hopefully it's not too foreign for you, Marina. That's usually what he teaches people in Tupi 1 is how to do those conjugations. Something to to note is that there's a second set in Tupi. So in English and Portuguese, we have verbs, and that's one thing, right? In Portuguese, you have three kinds of verbs. You have AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs, right? Like falar, comer, vir. These verbs, there's three different types, and then there's some irregular verbs, but for the most part, there's three different types, and you learn how to deal with those types as a second language speaker. You don't, I do. So I learned how to deal with those things. You already know how to deal with it just in your heart. In English, it's similar. There's just ed, and maybe there's some irregular verbs like begun instead of began, or beginned, like that, beginned. It sounds wrong, but I can't explain why. It just does. In Tupi, there's two different types of verbs. There's active verbs and there's stative verbs. So these two different types of verbs are going to get conjugated differently. They don't follow the same conjugation. Stative verbs, or as we call them, second class verbs. Stative is what second class is what Navajo calls them. Stative verbs are what linguists call them, because Navajo is more of like a translator. So he uses terminology that is useful for translating into Portuguese. But when you're trying to understand like the linguistics of it, it's easier to think of it as an active stative split. So what that means is that some verbs are going to be describing actions, right? I sleep, I talk, I see. And then other verbs are going to be describing our state, like, oh, I'm hot, it's cold, there's a lot of different stative verbs. I'm remembering, right? Your state. I'm angry, I'm happy. These things in English and Portuguese, we express them with adjectives. And as a result, in Tupi, we express them with stative verbs. So what that looks like in practice is like this. We have a verb, mainduar. And so this mainduar is to be remembering, to be in the state of remembering, right? To remember something. So if I want to say I'm remembering something, I would say she mainduar. We're going to put on this prefix. So these are all the prefixes, and these are derived from the pronouns that I just taught you. Ishe, ende, ore, yande, pe, ae. These are all derived from those. So she can be a prefix, nde can be a prefix, ore, yande. These don't change at all. See, that's nice. Ore, yande, and pe are all exactly the same. It's just ende and ere are different, and she and a are different. And then here, the they is an I or an S. So what that looks like is she mainduar. I remember. Ariel, how do I say we, including you, remember? You and me remember. We remember. How do I say that?
I forget how to say we.
It's right here on the screen. You can cheat.
But it's like just tata. Yandema Eduard.
Yeah, yandema induar.
Yandema. Oi?
Yandema induar.
Yandema Eduard. Yandema Eduard. How can I say this apostrophe there?
This isn't a glottal stop. So what it is ma induar. You build up like like in British English, sometimes instead of saying I'll say butter, it should be butter. You say butter, they'll say butter. They don't even say it. They just make a. That's what that is. It's the same thing. Say bottle of water. That's a glottal stop right there. So that's what we see when there's an apostrophe in Tupi. You say ma induar. Instead of just saying ma induar, it's ma induar. You hear the difference?
Okay. Yandema induar. Yeah. Yandema induar.
Yande ma induar.
Yande ma induar.
Yeah, good.
Yande ma induar.
Yande ma induar. Yande ma induar. Perfect. We remember. You and me remember. All right, let's see.
I try to connect this with like I endure with my mind. So yeah, you endure.
Yeah, my induad is like like what I see. It has an etymology of like let's see, induad. So this nduar suffix is
Okay.
this suffix is it creates nouns and it means basically like what is inside of this thing or what is there. So in my is olhar, right? To look at something. So my induar would be what is in my sight, what's in my vision, right? So when we say
Wow.
shema induar, it's like I'm in what was in my vision. What like it's kind of abstract to think of it that way, but it comes from these terms of like olhar, what is in my vision. So when we're remembering something, that's like we're in our vision, kind of to think about it that way.
So it would be like I am looking inside of my head. I'm looking inside of my eyes.
Yeah, it's like here, like this is it. Suar. O que está no meu olhar, right?
Wow, so deep.
But the thing is that when we use it this way, we're using it as a stative verb. So
Okay.
we're saying like I have something in my view. Like there's something in my view right now. Is basically how I would translate it into English. Shema induar. And so you can see that it's a any verb that's of the second class, it's a stated verb, is inherently intransitive. So that means that it doesn't take a direct object. But you can still say I remember of something. Eu lembro disso, right? De isso. We can do that as well right here. You can see it says lembrar-se and then it says de algo ou de alguém. When you do that, you complement it with rece or ri. So I can say something like, you can see right here, here's an example. De maendua sheri. Lembra-te de mim. Right?
Okay.
So basically it means like there's something in your vision because of me. I am what is causing you to have something in your vision, basically.
Okay.
That's the translation you want to think of. But what it really means is like lembrar de algo. That's what it means. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I won't go into this part, but this is related to that with these components here, but we won't go into that. First, let's just try to continue to use it. So shema induar, I remember. Nema induar, you remember. Marina, can you tell me how I would say Gustavo remembers or Gustavo remembered?
Go Ma, go Ma. Where are you? Go Ma.
Or if not, Sash can steal it too. Go ahead, Sash.
I believe she may be speaking with the mic closed.
Maybe not. Maybe she just walked away from the computer. Or maybe she fell asleep. Too much talk of intransitives and adjectives.
Sorry, I think that I don't know how to say Gustavo doesn't remember.
No, we want to say Gustavo remembers. We're not going to negate it right now. Just Gustavo remembers. But you don't have to take it. Let's see if Sash knows.
And how can we say that if it doesn't exist the he, she in this English, in this title, this box?
Well, do you really need to know whether they're a man or a woman to talk about whether or not they're remembering something?
So it's like I remember Gustavo would be.
Yeah, you could say I remember Gustavo, but how do I want to say Gustavo is remembering? Just Gustavo remembers.
Gustavo ima Endoar.
Perfect. Gustavo ima
Ah,
Induar. Gustavo is what is remembering. Third person. Not you, not me, not us. Gustavo. Right? And then how do I want to say how do I want to say like for example, let's say I want to say Gustavo and Keon remember. If we want to say and in Tupi, we're gonna use abe as a post position. So it's gonna look like Gustavo, Keon, abe, like that, abe. So that's how you say Gustavo, Keon, abe. It's like saying Gustavo, Keon, juntos. Gustavo and Keon together. Gustavo and Keon. So if we know what that is, Gustavo, Keon, abe, how would we say plural? They remember.
Gustavo, Kiam Abe, ima Endoar.
Exactly, it's the same thing. There's no difference between if you want to say that Gustavo remembered or if Gustavo and Keon remembered. You use ima induar because there's no plural or singular or gender in the third person. It doesn't matter. Now let's say the difference is, let's say I want to say Gustavo ishe abe, right? Ma induar. What would the prefix be here in this case?
Gustavo, Ishe Abe, Orma Endoar.
Exactly, because it's plural because there's two of us. Gustavo ishe abe, me and Gustavo, we remember. Oroma enduar. Right? Yeah, exactly. Oroma enduar. Or it could be Gustavo ende abe. What would this one be?
Yandemba Endoar.
Gustavo ende abe.
PN.
Yande
PN.
menduar. It could be yande, it could be pe, right? So if I want to include myself, I can say yande ma induar. That would mean you, Gustavo, you and Gustavo, yande ma induar. We all remember, right? I don't have to say myself because the yande implies it. That might sound a little weird, but it's okay.
Ishe, Gustavo, Ende Abe, Yandemba Endoar.
Yeah.
Gustavo, Ende Abe, PN ma Endoar.
There you go. Pe ma induar. They're not pe.
P.
The pe only happens in the pronoun. Any other time, whether it's a first class verb or a second class verb, it just has pe. Very simple. Pe.
P ma Endoar.
Whether it's first class or second class, it's really easy. Pe. Pe ma induar. Pe is probably the easiest verb tense of all of them because it always has a p in it. Anytime you see a prefix with a p in it, second person plural. It's the only one that has p's. Everything else doesn't have a p in it. It always has a p in it. Pretty useful. All right, so that makes sense to everyone, right? Ima induar, pema induar, we remember. Shema induar, enderece. What does that mean?
Lembro-me de ti.
Yes, perfect. Lembro-me de ti.
a gente tinha entendido enderecer.
Enderece or enderi. The difference between ri is like pour. It means like it expresses some sort of cause. Like you caused me to remember, right? Versus if I say rese, that means that that's more talking about like a focus marker. Like that's the thing that I am remembering, right? So you caused me to remember something else. Neri. I'm thinking of you. Nerese. That's the difference. Okay. All right. Oh, we got 344.
So if I say, sorry to ask,
Go
but if
for
I
it.
say we remember you, should be something like Yandema Duare Derese.
That doesn't work because I mean it does work, but it's weird because you're including the you. So I'm saying you and me remember you, Yande,
Well,
right? You can't use Yande. You have to use a different one.
we are one. Okay. In the Duare Derese.
You
In
remember
the
yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go with another. Shema Indua Derese.
I
Shema
remember
Indua
you.
Derese.
Shema
Okay.
Induar Derese. I remember you.
You did is how can I say I remember the other you said too. Derese e
So you said it at first. You said Yande ma Induar Derese. The issue with that is that Yande includes Ende. You see what I'm saying?
okay.
You have to
We
use
all remember I.
we
Something like
all
this.
remember you, including
Okay.
yourself. What you should be saying
Yeah.
is Ore ma Induar Derese.
Okay.
It's strange to use Yande and Ende together, you know, in this
Okay.
case, because Yande includes Ende. So you're saying me and him and you, all three of us remember you. It's like, of course he remembers himself. You don't have to, unless there's some really specific situation where they have dementia or Alzheimer's, and you're trying to like get them to remember themselves, you know, and they're like, who am I, you know, and it's like, oh,
And
we
the
all
other
remember
one.
you, including yourself. Then you could use Yande, but outside of
And the
that
other one.
situation, it's strange.
You said dere. Dere dese dere. Derese de you said
Neri,
another one.
neri, yeah,
Deri.
that's a different postposition. So you have esse and ri.
Ah, tá.
So those are just two different postpositions.
Deri.
In Tupi, we don't have prepositions; we have postpositions. So
If I see Gustavo and remember you by seeing Gustavo, I can say She Maenduar Gustavo ri enderece.
yeah, good, really good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
perfect. Um, yeah, there's different ways of saying that. I think you know, because sometimes if you don't have, when you put both of them in one sentence, then the meanings become more specific. But if you just use one of them, I think it's like an either or situation. Based on the context, we would understand if it's about or because. But when you use both of it, I think I would understand that. It's like, because of Gustavo, you remember me. Gustavo ri scerese de ma induari. And you see how I say nema induari. But you wouldn't say it like that. You just say nema induari. But yeah, there's a special circumstantial thing that we won't talk about that right now. But you can see ri here is the postposition. It says it's the same thing as rese. So Navajo calls it the same exact thing. It's just a shorter version. I don't know if it's always, you know, I think, in my personal opinion, I see it being used more specifically. But like I said, you could use either. If you use both, that's how I feel. It's that ri is more about the cause, and rese is more of a generic, like do anything Swiss Army knife sort of postposition, like G in Portuguese, right? O presente de Pedro. Who is the present for? Who bought the present? If I say o presente é de Pedro. O presente de Pedro. Is it for him? Did he buy it? Is it for him? I don't know. You know, like the some of our postpositions and prepositions really depend on context, right? Oh, it's my gift. Is it for me, or did I buy it for someone else? It's my gift. Did I buy it, or is it for someone else? I don't know. We don't know, you know? So
Maybe Pedro is a slave someone bought for someone else.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of different contexts, right? There's different ways that we can interpret these things, and it's not always clear. There's things in Tupi as well that are like uh, Pedro uh, Pedro e João foram para casa dele. Whose house are they going to? You know, who I don't know. We don't know who. A casa dele could be João's house or Pedro's house. We don't know. So there's a lot of ambiguity in our languages. So it really depends on the context, and that's why I implore you guys to spend some time. These little what I'm highlighting here, these little snippets which show you the word in use in annotations are so useful because you can start to as you start to read them and you see the same word used in multiple contexts, you start to understand a little bit more the connotation and the ways that you can use them and things like that. Um, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. All right, we got 10 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? I guess.
Well, for now, I'm thinking very. I think it's very interesting. I'm using the. I wasn't able to open Anki until I discovered that it was really easy. Just double click on it with the app installed. So it was like, okay, I'm so dumb.
There you go.
And I have studied a little bit, and I'm seeing a lot of comparisons with Portuguese language. Like for example, this aruru being said.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
my mother always said to me like, "Por que que você tá jururu?" Like it's like we use that in our common language still. I really find it very interesting.
Yeah, right here. Jururu. It comes from Iaruru. Like that. Iaruru. Just like that. Iaruru. Eles são, right? They are sad. Iaruru. The I over time becomes jururu. Jururu. That's exactly what it is.
Poré, ururu.
The verb nyeeng gives nyenyenyen.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ying ying ying. You're talking a lot. Ying ying ying. Because in Tupi we have something called reduplication. So if you take a verb, right, and you repeat it, that gives the idea of a continuous action, right? So if I say onya ing, that means he talks. If I say onya enya ing, that means he talks a lot. He keeps talking, right? Onya enya ing. And so that's a grammatical thing. It's not like someone just made that up. That grammatically means to continue to do that verb, right? If I said iarururu, like if I extend it, right? Iarururu, that means he keeps being sad. He keeps being sad, It's pretty cool, huh?
Nice. Imagine being like a Portuguese Catholic priest here in Brazil, listening to a person saying "yeah, yeah, yeah." It's fun.
Yeah, I know.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's
Jururu,
interesting.
I'm sad. Jururu.
Shearuru, yeah. Shearuru, nderese, right? I'm sad for you. Neri, I'm sad because of you. Shearuru, nderese. You're making me sad. Yeah.
How cool! How cool!
It is cool. It's really cool. And yeah, I'm glad that you guys are picking it up okay. There's some examples in here to make I'm sad, Shearuru. Maybe I have to update this.
Can I make another question here?
Yeah.
Like, why don't we call the language Tupinamba and we call the language just Tupi?
Well, so some people do. I wrote a little bit about that in my introduction here, but basically,
Yeah, it was
if you look at this, Tupi is a whole family of languages that goes across all of South America, not just Brazil. And so inside of Tupi, there's Maueti Guarani branch, and inside of Maueti Guarani, there's a sub branch of that sub branch called Tupi Guarani, right? So inside of that Tupi Guarani sub branch of the Tupi language family, there's like 73 different languages. 70 different, well, not 70, but there's a lot. How many are these? These are all of the Tupi Guarani languages right here in this image. You can see all of this, and then the one that we study here is registered as Tupinamba right here. So this is the one that we study. There's all these other languages inside this family, and
13,
all these
13.
other families inside here. Like, it's huge, right? It's crazy how big the language family of Tupi is. So this language that we study was spoken from the north all the way to the south of the coast of Brazil. So this
The kingdom
language,
of Tupinambá.
what was that?
The kingdom of Tupinambá was the coast of Brazil.
Well, so if you look at the coast of Brazil, do I have it in here? Let me see if we can find it.
It was his reign.
Tupi map. Tupi language. Maybe here in Wikipedia. I meant to put that picture I had. I don't know if I can find this easily. But there's a map that shows you like all the different tribes. So there was a bunch of different people. There was Tupiniquim, Tupinambá, Potiguara, Carijó, all these different people, and so they all spoke slightly different dialects of this same language, which they didn't have a name for it. The Jesuits just came and had to come up with a name for it, so they called it Lingua Brasilica. So really what we're studying historically is called Lingua Brasilica, the language of Brazil. And then over time, they would use this language because they spent so much time studying this language. They would use it to catechize all of the other indigenous people, the Je people, the people in the Amazon who didn't speak this language. They learned it because of the Portuguese. The Portuguese forced them to learn it, okay? So this language was widely spoken because of the Jesuits. It was already widely spoken on the coast of Brazil. All those people already spoke it. But when the Bandeirantes started going into Brazil, they brought this language with them. That's why you have the word Tupã means God in so many different indigenous languages, is because they learned about God using this language. Okay? So any Christian concepts that they have, any words that they have, come from Tupi. Because even if they're not a Tupian language, because that's how they got catechized. Right? And so when we call the language Tupinambá, we're giving the whole language just one little people. We're giving it the name of one people, when in reality, all these different people spoke it. So that's why I don't call it that. I call it Tupi Antigo because it's an old form of Tupi that used to be spoken. I call it Old Tupi. Also another thing to note is that there are Tupinambá people and tribes and aldeas today that basically are revitalizing the language in their own dialects. So there's a modern Tupinambá language which people in Bahia, on the coast of Bahia, are speaking. They're starting to speak, just like there's a modern Potiguara language which they're starting to speak, just like there's modern Tupiniquim language which are starting to speak. All of these languages are based on the same exact materials that we're learning with, that we're teaching, same language. But because they're indigenous people, they reserve the sovereign right to develop their language the way that they see fit in the modern age. So maybe one of them uses a Portuguese word where the other one uses a neologism, and maybe one simplifies the grammar one way because that's how people end up using it, whereas the other one doesn't. These changes haven't happened yet because it's still very young, the revitalization, but they're laying the groundwork such that these can become their own languages. So I think in a lot of different texts, especially English language texts, you'll find that they do call this language Tupinambá. So it's not wrong to do that, but from a just from a historical concept, I think it's misleading to call it Tupinambá because that makes you think that all these people that spoke Tupinambá, when in reality, the Tupiniquim, they were like enemies. They wanted to kill the Tupinambá. So if you come up to them and you say, "Oh, you speak Tupinambá," they'll be like, "What do you mean I speak Tupinambá? Like, I hate the Tupinambá, you know?" So yeah, it's like a sensitive thing in terms of cultural correctness and whatnot. But these kind of terms change all the time. Maybe in 20 years, Tupi Antigo will be a bad term. They'll say, "Why do you still call it Antigo? That makes it sound like it's dead. We speak it again. Stop saying that." They'll say, "Okay, I'll stop saying that." We evolve with these kinds of names. So it's important to know that Tupinambá is this language. They are the same thing, but it also is the name of a specific people that has multiple different tribes around the coast of Brazil that still exist today. and also was a historical group of people. So it's very confusing, all these terms.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Sorry for the long answer.
Yeah.
All right,
I
that's
really wanted the long answer.
good.
I needed to study a lot of more, but thank you very much for your time, and I will continue to attend your classes.
Okay, great. I'll put them on YouTube too, so you guys can watch them again. I recorded this one, so I'll put it on YouTube. You can subscribe to my account, and I'll see you at USP hopefully soon. All right, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. How can I say ciao in Tupi?
Ne'in, ne'in. Ne'in,
Ne'in,
ne'in.
ne'in, meu amigo.
In.
Ne'in, ne'in.
Nain.
All right, ne'in, ne'in.